And good TGIF morning, guys. It is 9:03 on this Friday, April 12th, 2019. And I am here, as you can see, to do a little Friendship is Magic talk, but also talk about something that a lot of folks, a lot of fans, well, some fans over the past several years, if not almost since the beginning, but more so over the past several years, have been wondering. And that is, why is there romance in a show about friendship? Yeah. Like, why is there romance in a show about friendship? And honestly, this is a legitimately good question because of the fact that not a lot of people are thrilled with the idea. Excuse me. I got a little bit of a coffee, a cold. I'm trying to get over it. Um. Anyway, a lot of people are wondering why. Why is honestly, why is there so much emphasis? Well, not I wouldn't say emphasis, not too much emphasis, but more along the lines, why why decide to introduce romance into a show where the main focus is about friendship and nothing else? And I think there's a reason for that, guys. You see, yes, obviously the main concern should be the main focus should be about the friendship that the main six, main seven, main eight, however you look at them, have with each other and nothing else. It should also be about the friendships that they create or they develop throughout the season between themselves, new characters, as well as strengthen the friendship between characters that we get introduced that seemingly are like in the background but become more focused on later on. So I understand where people are coming from when they talk about that. Like that should be the main priority. And originally it was the main priority. If you think about it, originally it was. But here's the thing. When Lauren Faust, and this was mentioned before, even Lauren Faust, I believe, said this herself one time in an interview, that when Twilight in the first episode, in the very first episode of the series, the pilot, the two-part pilot, went around in the first episode, the first part, and was meeting the rest of the main six who eventually and inevitably would become her friends for life. One of the ponies she met was, of course, was Rarity. Now, from what Lauren Faust, from what I understand, I believe I heard this in an interview. Lauren Faust, when Twilight and Spike went to go meet Rarity, when Spike first got a glimpse of Rarity, Lauren Faust wanted to use Spike as sort of our personal point of view to showcase how beautiful this character was, how gorgeous she was. And that not only was she gorgeous and beautiful, but she was also one of the most generous and nicest ponies you're going to meet. And yeah, I mean, she did throw in the whole thing of Spike going gaga over seeing her, and some people have been kind of debatable about that. But Lauren Faust knew what she was doing. She knew that what was happening right there can be related to real life, and that's a crush. Now, at the time, some people would argue that it's kind of wrong for the show and the staff and even the fans to want to ship a young, what looks like baby dragon with this adult mare. But here was the one thing. Lauren Faust never came out and said exactly what the ages were. That was Megan McCarthy and the rest of the show staff later on. But even that didn't stick. Someone like even A and Y did a video, and I did a response to this video not that long ago. But even A and Y basically said that there was nothing was really. I mean, overall, what he said in his response was uh, because the video he did was back in 2014, just like when the panel was, and the panel was from BabsCon, which ironically is going to be happening this year as well. In the next in the next, what is it, 7 days, next within the next week. Um, but anyway, Lauren Faust, no Lauren Faust, but anyway, A and Y basically said that the interpretation he was getting from that panel was they weren't saying no about to Spike and Rarity. They weren't saying no or anything. In other words, they weren't ruling it out. But right then and there, though, because of what Megan McCarthy said, I guess not at this panel. Either I don't know if it was at this panel or another panel, and then someone decided to draw a picture, I think on DeviantArt or something, quoting what Megan McCarthy had said. Basically, Megan McCarthy said that this between Spike and Rarity would never happen. But yet, you still had your hints here and there. You still had certain moments here and there. Castle, Sweet Castle. Inspiration, manifestation, whether you want to admit it or not. Gauntlet of Fire, in a way. What else? The movie. The freaking movie, if you will. The point is, even when Megan McCarthy was still in charge as executive producer, you still had your Sparity moments in there. And now that Nicole Dubuc came on board, it's like all of a sudden you have certain moments here and there. When Megan McCarthy was in charge, even though they'd kind of cool off a little bit, I think between 4, 5, and 6, even though between seasons 4 and 7, you still had your moments here and there, but not as much. Basically, it wasn't as evident as it was like in seasons 1 till 3, and even recently with season 8. So between seasons 4 and 7, yeah, you still had your little moments here and there, but that was it. Nothing else. It wasn't until basically season 8 here where you kind of had a refocus put back on it. But, like I said, even when Megan McCarthy was in charge, you still had your moments here and there because she knew fans would expect seeing something related to Spike and Rarity, Sparity, if you will, for short, once in a while, especially when it would come to the movie. Even though she basically said it would never happen. But all of a sudden, now you have Nicole Dubuc coming in, and she's like, nope, I'm not going to, do that. I'm not going to follow Megan's trend here. I'm going to let this happen. I'm going to let Spike and Rarity, the Sparity thing, I'm going to let it happen, but I'm going to do it in a way that makes it feel natural. And I think that's what we're getting here. I think that's what we're getting is we're getting a moment to where she wants to make it feel natural. It's not like, oh, well, it has to happen, and she's going to make it happen. No, she's letting it naturally happen. I've said this before and I'll say it again. It goes back to some of the classic TV tropes of sitcoms and even animated series. And heck, even movies, live action and animated. Well, basically, you take your time and you naturally let this progress. I mean, a good example as far as like motion pictures are concerned, animated wise, a lot of people will point to that a lot of folks would point to is Frozen. A lot of people will point to that as basically being a more natural build towards Anna and Christopherson. I think that's his name. becoming an item. Okay, it's more of a natural chemistry there. Another good example. Some people would say, again, from Disney, you have um, you have Tangled and the Princess and the Frog. You have a natural built attraction and chemistry happening between Tanyana and I can't think of his name right now, the prince that becomes the frog, as well as you have a natural chemistry and attraction being built between Rapunzel and Flynn Rider. So, so the way I look at it is I believe Nicole Dubuc is going to let the writers, her, Josh Haber, and a few others, kind of naturally build towards that moment. If and whenever it happens in season 9, the payoff's going to be um, very rewarding. It's going to be like, yeah, this is a natural payoff. This actually feels legit. And I think that's what she wants to aim for if she's still going to, give some focus to it down the line. And she wants fans that even may not agree with it to kind of be receptive and kind of be receptive to the end result, that it may not be the result they want, but they could see that it was a natural progression getting to it. And that's why when you take a look at her being in charge, and all of a sudden in season 8 with Best Gift Ever, some of the shorts that were preludes to season 9, like Rarity's Biggest Fan, and who knows what's to come later on, you kind of see that she is a fan. She likes it. It has that story arc that a lot of folks like, the underdog, if you will, in this case Spike. So she can she can actually she can actually get behind that. And again, it's a natural progression towards a moment that fans want to see or hope to see down the line. It's not a it's not like an in your face kind of deal. It's naturally happening. So I look at the fact that we have to just wait and see where it progresses in season 9. Should it progress? I mean, my most likely scenario that I'm looking at is in the next month or so, with the episode "She's All Yak." That's probably the closest we'll get so far, possibly, but I'm not ruling anything out. Now, as far as the rest of the idea of putting romance into a show about friendship, here's the thing: what the writers are going with, and the executive producers behind the scene are going with, is a natural, as I just said, sort of a progression, sort of in a natural progression, if not an evolution. Because what they're basing some of these ships off of, some of these romances that they are making official, that they're teasing and stuff like that, or that they got fans, wondering about and shipping and all that, they're basing it off real life in a sense. Hear me out. You see, some people may look at Big Mac and Sugar Bell and be like, well, they didn't even really know each other that long. Why all of a sudden does Big Mac have interest in Sugar Bell? Well, from what we understand, Big Mac has been to the village on a couple of occasions to help out, I'm guessing, maybe deliver some food. And Sugar Bell's been to Ponyville on a couple of occasions to pick up some food or pick up some items. So obviously they've bumped into each other, they've talked, they conversed, they become friends. So it's only natural that someone like Big Mac would probably start to um, have an attraction and want to win her heart. And despite how you feel how the episode was done when that happened, um, you got to admit that ever since it just feels that it just feels like a natural fit between Sugar Bell and Big Mac because they play off each other very well. I mean, the breakup breakdown is their second episode, and the way it's portrayed, it's very natural and relatable because sometimes men or women will overhear a conversation from the person that they're in love with, and they'll mistake it sometimes for something that it's not. And when they finally find out the truth, of course, they apologize for misunderstanding, and most of the time, not all the time, but some of the time, the their lover, their boyfriend or their girlfriend, uh, will forgive them. They will forgive them, and they will understand. Yeah, I get it. It was a natural mistake. You thought it was something else, but it wasn't. And and again, when you look at these two, that's why they work off each other so well. It's it's the fact that they have almost like a natural chemistry where they play off each other very, very well. But the other thing that I think another reason they work so well, and fans are actually behind this ship, believe it or not. I'm not sure about Eliora, but of the Brony community in the Rift Cafe. But the reason they work off each other so well is well, and the reason, like I said, fans are fans of this pairing is due to the fact that it's very reminiscing of Bright Mac and Buttercup, Pear Butter, Big Mac's parents, Big Mac and Applejack's parents. So when you look at that, it almost feels very horrific that it seems that we're getting a deja vu like scenario with these characters. And any other episode or story that centers around them, maybe here in season 9, is going to be very intriguing. I mean, what we get basically in one of the trailers is a screenshot of Applejack and Apple Bloom running and jumping in the air, almost in excitement, almost in joy and happiness. But what could be the reason? You see, that's the question. What could be the reason? And my thought process on that is either it's because Big Mac, and the most natural, I would think, is Big Mac announcing that he and Sugar Bell are engaged to be married. So that would cause for excitement and joy because, hey, the Apple sisters, they are getting another sister, even through marriage. So you know, so it makes sense in a way that it actually works out. It actually works out. So in a way, it kind of makes sense it because what I'm saying is it actually works out because now you're using the third and possible final episode focusing on them to announce, hey, these characters are going to get married. They're going to go off and do their own thing now afterwards when probably the series is done. And like I said, it makes a lot of sense. It it makes sense. It's something that again, I understand not a lot of fans are going to be supportive of. Not a lot of fans are going to be like, "Oh, really? You gonna go with that?" And that doesn't make sense. This is about friendship. And look, again, I understand what a lot of people are saying. A lot of us do, but the writers, no matter whether who they are, whether they've changed up or they haven't, whether there's someone new in charge as executive producer or not, they understand the natural progression or evolution of friendship sometimes into something more. Again, this is why I think Nicole Dubuc, even if fans don't want to agree with it, decided to focus again on Rarity and Spike, kind of bring that back to the forefront. Because if this is the last season, it's only a natural evolution and progression for possibly Spike and Rarity to go from being friends to something more. I mean, think about it this way, guys. Nicole Dubuc, or Dubuc, Nicole Dubuc wouldn't have allowed whoever wrote Best Gift Ever, whoever wrote Meltdown, whoever wrote uh, Breakup Breakdown, you know, she wouldn't have allowed them, if you will, to, how do I put this? She wouldn't have allowed them to add in the disparity moments like they were. She wouldn't have had Spike read his poem off, read his poem that he made for Rarity off to Discord to give him an example of what Hearts and Hooves Day was or was about. They wouldn't have focused somewhat of Meltdown to things going on between the two, especially begin the episode with them. They wouldn't have had certain moments here and there in the finale, especially with Rarity being the one that helps Spike spit out the letter from Celestia. Nor would they have had Spike do what he did at the end of Best Gift Ever. Yes, you can not agree with the way he did a fast talk and trade to Fluttershy, or did a fast talk trade with Fluttershy. You may not agree with that, but if you put that on the back burner, you ignore that, and you focus on what he does at the end, Nicole could have easily said, no, don't do that, just do this, and we're done with it, right? No, she allowed it to happen because, again, I think, honestly, she is a fan and supporter of these kind of story arcs. And to her, it's a natural progression for Spike to have a moment like he did with Rarity in Best Gift Ever. Because of the fact that he's basically in front of everyone, not just not just Twilight and the rest of the main six, but in front of Discord, who knows about it, who's already known about it, but also in front of someone else that's like his family, and that being Cadence and Shining Armor and Flurry Heart. He's basically singing and expressing his love for Rarity. He's singing basically a romantic ballad to Rarity, basically by saying, I love you, in his own way. Because the first lyrics in that song is, he tried to find something rare to show how much he cares, but nothing could compare to you. He's basically telling Rarity, I tried to find a present that's so rare that you would love it, that would express how I feel about you, to you, but I couldn't do it. So here, I'm going to do this instead because nothing I could have bought compares to who you are, compares to the love I have for you. So, and again, I understand not a lot of folks like the idea that they did that. Map, Miss Anthropony does it, and a few others. I get that. I understand that. But when you look at someone like Nicole Dubuc being the executive producer, someone like Josh Haber helping her out as a writer, probably a co-executive producer as well as a fellow writer, along with, like, let's say the later writers, Joanne and Christine and a few others, you can kind of see that what she's doing is more of the natural progression kind of situation. It's not to say, oh, well, we're going to do it anyway because we want to spite you guys. No, it's not to do that. They're doing it because it's a natural storyline progression. And if this is, the last season, it's best that they go out on a high note. They know fans are going to expect that this have some kind of payoff. And yeah, it may not be the payoff a lot of fans want, but it's probably going to happen that way, some shape or form. And I know I got a little off topic there, but the reason I bring this up, the reason I got off topic with it, is because when you look at Big Mac and Sugar Bell, yeah, you may not agree with these two being together, but in a way, it feels very natural and organic, and it works. This is why folks support it, because it feels real to them. And also, it's very horrific, if you will, that you have a character that has a similar main design to the mother, to Big Mac and Applejack's mother, and Big Mac is basically a recoloring, a red recoloring of his father almost. So, so that's another reason I think people like it, because it reminds them of Bright Mac and Pear Butter. And when you go back and watch The Perfect Pair and you see that natural chemistry that these two had with each other and how much fun they had being around each other, and you see a similar situation with Sugar Bell and Big Mac, it makes sense. It makes sense. And just like with them, and just like with Big Mac's parents, the relationship between Sugar Bell and Big Mac feels very natural and real. And that's why people can relate to it. That's why they enjoy it. Again, will everybody agree with it? Absolutely not. Not everybody will agree with Big Mac and Sugar Bell being together. They'd rather have Big Mac be with Marble Pie, even though there's a chance they could be related, but that's another story for another time. The point is, this feels more natural and progressive. Now, as far as another major character, secondary major character, goes, as far as romance being involved in the series, we have to talk about Maud Pie. Here's a character that's been around for several seasons, I think since about season 4 or 5. And she has amassed a huge fan base. There's no doubt about that. They have amassed a huge, she has amassed a huge fan base, even to the point that I've become a fan of this character. And heck, one of the Funko figures that I got and I wanted to get was Maud Pie, and I have her. I have freaking Maud Pie. But the point that I'm getting at, folks, is just like with Big Mac, she became very popular, probably more so. But nobody ever expected Nicole Dubuc to do what she did. Now, Megan McCarthy was still in charge when Big Mac got put with Sugar Bell, but you could kind of tell Nicole Dubuc was, shadowing her and kind of taking on the role of executive producer for certain episodes in season 7. And obviously, the whole Big Mac Sugar Bell was probably her idea. It was probably one of the episodes she got a chance to be in charge of. So now that she's fully in charge come this previous 8th season, or this previous 8th season, if you will, she's now once again giving a major secondary character who's very over with the fans, very popular, and is one of the more beloved characters. She's giving her a love interest as well, in what a lot of people look at as the freaking Sheldon pony, Mud Briar, which, if you look at how he's portrayed, how his mannerisms and personality are, it's very mirroring and very reminiscing and identical to Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory. So it kind of makes, what I'm trying to say is, when they did this, it was kind of unexpected. I mean, fans did see the episode due to the leaks. They came out early. They saw it before it officially came out, even without sound and all that, maybe, or background sound, background music and sound, that is. Vocally, things were there. But they saw it a little early because of the leaks. They read the synopsis. And by reading the synopsis, first of all, and then watching the episode, yeah, a lot of people were kind of surprised. Like, wait a minute, you're giving Maud Pie a boyfriend? What is this? And then to see that it's a Sheldon version, basically for them to see that it's a MLP version of the Sheldon character from Big Bang Theory. Yeah, they pretty much were cool with it, because it's like, hey, Sheldon's one of the more popular, more beloved characters in pop culture right now today. If you're a fan of the Big Bang Theory and such. But to see them translate his character over to MLP and pair him up with Maud Pie, it's like, yeah, it was a surprise, because they're thinking, out of any character that probably wouldn't be into romance, now all of a sudden you're giving him Now all of a sudden you're giving that character a love interest, and to them it was a shock. It was a surprise. It's taking them time to really accept, even as I speak, accept the fact that okay, this might work. This is cool. They kind of play off each other in an almost natural kind of way because both have similar likes and stuff and interest. Maud Pie, of course, likes rocks. She has a pet rock. Uh, Mud Briar has loves sticks and anything wood, and he has a pet twig. So in a way, it naturally kind of works. You cannot say that it doesn't because it has that natural feel to it. Like I said, it has that natural feel to it that a lot of folks could relate to. A lot of folks could relate to maybe in their own way. But again, though, but again, but what I'm trying to say is here's the big difference. Here's the big difference. Um, Basically, when you look at how fans have been more receptive, they've been more receptive of Big Mac and Sugar Bell compared to Mod Pie and Mud Briar, it's like there's a more natural to them. There's a more natural chemistry between Big Mac and Sugar Bell compared to Mud Briar and Mod Pie. They just feel like the Mud Briar Mod Pie thing was something that was forced, something that was just put in there because of the fact that they wanted to take another popular character that the fans loved, another popular secondary character that the fans loved, and to be an answer to Big Mac going with Sugar Bell, they decided let's give Mod Pie someone as well. Now, does that make sense in the end? Well, that's up to your own interpretation. I wouldn't say that it makes sense, but I'm not the one writing the show. So my interpretation is, my opinion is, I think they looked at the fact that hey, it's only that if they gave Big Mac somebody, it's only fair to give another secondary popular character in Mod Pie a love interest as well. Even though, like a lot of people would point out, it doesn't make any freaking sense that Mod Pie would have a love interest. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't seem to be her character because it doesn't. Again, it doesn't seem to be a natural fit for her character because she's more along the lines of, oh, I'm this. Excuse me. I'm this. I'm this. I'm that. Or basically, she has a more of an admiration for rocks more than anything else, and I think that's why this throws a lot of people off. It kind of throws people off because it's like it just comes out of nowhere. It just comes out of nowhere. It's like, what is this kind of deal? That's kind of how it feels to a lot of folks. It's like all of a sudden this just comes out of nowhere, and you're wondering why. Why did it come out of nowhere? Why all of a sudden are you giving Mod Pie a love interest when that doesn't seem to fit her character? And it's all basically going back to what I said earlier, natural progression and evolution. You're evolving the characters, and part of Maud's evolution is her to go beyond just being amenable about rocks and having a love for rocks, to probably going beyond that and finding maybe a kindred spirit, someone that she can talk with and have something in common with, and that of course was Mud Briar. It's kind of like, okay, you go back to, okay, you read all these stories about the 60s, right? And how people were acted in the 60s, the 70s, even up to today, maybe. Basically, what they did with Maud here is they had to find, like I said, a kindred spirit, someone that shared the same kind of zen she does. The kind of like, you know, peace and tranquility, man, kind of deal. Well, I wouldn't say she's a tree hugger, which is Fluttershy's friend, but still, you get the idea. Basically, has that same weight. Basically, someone or some pony that's on that same wavelength, and you know, again, you could agree with it or disagree with it all you want, but it just feels like it's a natural, in a sense, a natural progression for the character, um, for who the character is. That's what it is. It's a natural progression. And again, like I said, I know a lot of fans may not agree with it, and that's fine. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it. You know, was I surprised that they did it when I read the synopsis? Absolutely. Of course I was surprised. I think anybody was surprised, honestly. Because they didn't see it coming. They did not see that moment coming. They did not see it coming whatsoever. But honestly, I think, like I said, it's a more it's all part of evolving the character and growing up the character. Because here's the thing: there's a saying, um, that goes that if a franchise or a show lasts as long as it does, and it's able to maintain its popularity and grow, that most times what the creators will do is they will basically, because they might, okay, what I'm trying to say is there's an old saying, and there's an old saying that goes around, an old method that gets used, that when a fan base gets older but they still love a certain show or franchise, then the creators behind said show will decide, okay, our fans are growing up, they're getting older, let's grow up, let's have the show grow up as well. Let's age the show, let's mature the show a little bit, let's evolve the characters and the personalities and the uh, statures and stuff like that. Let's take them and put them in directions they've never been in. Let's have them grow as well. And that's exactly what you're getting here. That's exactly what you're getting here. Yeah, that's exactly what you're getting here. And that's my dog. She's fine. She just has a little bit of allergies. Uh, but again, that's what you're getting here. You are getting that natural uh, progression and evolution of the show along with the characters. Because the characters, like the show and the fan base itself, is growing up or has grown up. And the writers are like, fine, let's age the show up as well. Let's grow it up as well. We could still keep it TVY, but we could still give it that TVY rating. We could still give it that TVY rating and stuff, but we can mature the stories enough to where the fans, now that they're older, will understand them and will be cool with them and will accept them. And do they always hit a home run out of the park when it comes to the episodes? Absolutely not. Not really. But, again, it's called growing up. It's called a natural progression, organic progression, maturing evolution kind of thing. And that's why last season and even the season before, you're starting to see even characters like Big Mac and Mod Pie go in different directions by having them get love interest, by having them, get, you know, get the, become involved in romance. Big Mac with Sugar Bell, Mod Pie with Mud Briar. And getting back to Mod Pie, that's why she's suddenly been put in that position, because they're growing her character. They're expanding her character and growing it so that it's not just rocks, all kinds of rocks and stuff that she's enamored with, or in love with, but now she can find someone that has a kindred, that's like a kindred spirit that she can actually, talk with and find common interest with, and because of that, develop something more than just, a friendship. And obviously, that's what's happened. She's developed more of a friend. That friendship that she developed with Mudbriar has evolved into something more. I mean, heck, you can see she's a little bit more expressive, like more smiley, if you will, in this past season, because of that, because of that, due to the fact that she now has someone she can relate to, she has a common interest with. And again, it's all part of growing up. It's all part of an evolution. And like I said, I know a lot of people may not agree with that, and that's fine. And I know I repeat myself a lot. I do apologize. But the point is, that's exactly why romance is suddenly coming into the foreground. Why, oh, not for, yeah, or the forefront, I'm trying to say. That's why romance is becoming more present. It's making its presence more, uh, how do I put it? More noticeable. That's what it is. They make it. That's why romance is being made more noticeable in the show. I mean, take a look at the premiere this past Monday. I mean, this past Saturday, and the fact that, you know Discord did what he did to save Fluttershy, and then Fluttershy's action afterwards. If that doesn't spell the fact that there's a rumor going around that one of the episodes later on this season is going to put those two together, and thus introduce romance now all of a sudden to the main six officially, I don't know what. I don't know what is. I mean, you can. I mean, you see that they tease Starlight and Sunburst all the time. Anytime those two are together on screen, they tease that. Heck, a lot of people say that they teased Spike and Starlight in season 6. Despite the fact that nothing really came of it, the point that I'm getting at, folks, is it's all part of an evolution. It's all part of evolving. This is why, again, all of a sudden in the past several seasons, you're starting to see romance become more present in the show, because the show is growing up. The fans of the show have grown up. The staff notices this. The staff knows that, hey, we're in the final years of the show, having all new content, for in all new seasons. Might as well go out with a bang and introduce things into the show that fans wouldn't think we would introduce or start putting focus on. And that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. And again, you may not like the idea, you may not care for the idea, but you have to understand that it's all part of growing up. It's all part of the show growing up with its fans, and maturing with its fans, and evolving like its fans. And thus, by doing so, it's taking the characters, some you wouldn't expect to be put in these kind of scenarios, and doing the same with them. As well as it's starting to put more focus and emphasis on already teased, if not established, friendships, and are possibly thinking about evolving them into something more. I mean, why do you think an upcoming episode later on this season is teasing something between two members of the young slash student six. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, folks. It's a natural situation if you catch my drift. It's very, very natural. And like I said, you may not agree with it. You may feel like, oh, they're betraying what the show was all about. I don't like it. Da 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 da. And that's fine. You have a right to your opinion. And look, I'll advise you on this. I'll advise you on this. Any of you going to BabsCon next week in Burlingame slash San Francisco, which is in my backyard, any of you going there, here's what you do. If you can get one on one with Nicole Dubuc and Josh Haber, if they are there, they should be, you need to ask them what is going on with why you bring, you need to ask them one or two questions. First one, probably the biggest one you would want to get out of your system, why are you focusing, and you can ask Nicole Dubuc this if you want to. You can ask her, why are you focusing on, why did you decide to bring Spike Rarity, Sparity back into focus? That's one question. The other question you should have is, why are you suddenly starting to focus on romance in a show about friendship? That is the question you need to ask to the panel that Nicole Dubuc and Josh Haber will be part of, so that you can get finality. And if their answer is, the same, what I is the same of, or is similar to what I just said, that it's all part of natural progression and evolution and growing up the characters in the show along with its audience, then that's basically all you're going to need. I mean, yeah, it's not going to be a very popular answer, but in the end, if that's the reasoning, that's the reasoning. You can't really say any more than that. You can't really say any more than that. I mean, look, does a show that's based on friendship need to focus on romance sometimes, or even introduce it, even with secondary characters or secondary major characters? No, it doesn't. A show shouldn't that's focused on friendship shouldn't have to do that. But if a show that starts off that way becomes a hit, becomes a pop culture phenomenon, even to the point that they have a brief 5-second cameo in a Super Bowl commercial, and basically you have Watch Mojo stating that one, if not two of their characters, if not all six, are going to become or be remembered as pop culture icons, then yeah, maybe there is a spot, maybe there is a place to showcase and talk about romance in the series. Maybe there is. And here's the thing, you may not agree with the teases, some of the teasing ships that they throw out there, like Twilight and Flash Century, depending on how you view that. You may not like the Applejack Carmel ship or that was teased. You may not like, the Rainbow Dash Soren or Rainbow Dash Flash Magnus. That was teased. You may not like the Pinkie Pie cheese sandwich. But the reason they get teased, the reason they're thrown in there, is whether or not they do something with them, it's all part of natural progression and evolution and the show growing up along with its fan base, and thus growing up the characters of that show along with them. You know, like I said, again, you may not agree. Again, like I said, you may not agree with, with another uh, what I'm saying, you may not agree with the methods, and why they're suddenly doing this, but I just look at the fact that it's all part of a natural. And I know I say this a lot. I've said this a lot in this live stream and podcast. I do apologize, but it's all part of basically the show, along with the fans, growing up with the characters along with it. That's what it is. I mean, look, when we get older, we all want things to we want what we like to age with us. We like what we there are things that we will read in comic books sometimes, and we'll want that comic to age with us. I've used this as an example before. Sonic the Hedgehog. When it started off, it was just a hybrid blend of the Saturday morning cartoon and the syndicated cartoon. But as time went on, obviously the people behind the series noticed, or behind the comic book series noticed, the audience was growing up, so they decided, okay, they're growing up, we're going to age up our comic book series as well, and that's what they did. That's what they did. As time went on, they aged it up. There's a lot of series, animated and live action wise, mostly animated, that did the same thing. They would start off a certain way for a while, and then as the more years went by and the more seasons they got, they ended up, depending on the show itself, they ended up maturing the show. They ended up growing the show up and maturing and growing up the characters along with it. So again, it's just something that comes with the territory. It's just something that comes with a show or a franchise that becomes as popular as Friendship is Magic did. And again, I understand that that's hard for a lot of people, for a lot of fans, if not some fans, to understand and accept. But it's just something that you got to look at it this way. It's just something that after this season is done, and even though we may get 44 to 1 hour specials still based in Friendship is Magic later down the line, like during the holiday season, like during the Christmas season this year, and even beyond that, even though we'll still get those afterwards, you got to look at the fact that this is it. So basically, what better way to go? So basically, what better way to go out? I mean, as I've said before, and I used the late great Stan Lee and what he talked about in an interview with Kevin Smith. He said that they were ending a comic back in the 60s, an anthology comic called Amazing Fantasy. And basically, because this was the last issue, Stan Lee and some other writers and contributors to the book were allowed to write whatever they wanted into the comic and have it published in the comic and think nothing else of it. Well, of course, we know what happened there. Stan Lee wrote what he figured would be the only Spider-Man story, and made it part of the last issue of Amazing Fantasy, and of course, the rest is history. But you get the idea. This is the last season, so they're pretty much saying, you know what? We want to see this happen. We kind of want to see this happen. That being some of the creative stuff behind the scenes with Spike and Rarity and, Mud Pie and Mud Briar and Big Mac Sugar Bell and whoever else. We want to see this happen. This is the last season. Let's make it happen. And that's what they're kind of doing. Because they figure, they're not going to get renewed for another season. That this is it. And that the only other thing, like I said, that they're going to do that's, G4 Friendship is Magic related is 44 minute to 1 hour specials down the line. And that's about it. Nothing more. There's going to be nothing more than that. And that's why, in a sense, when you look at the fact, when you look at the past several seasons, mostly season 7 and then season 8 last year, and then you take a look at Best Gift Ever, and even Rarity's biggest fan, that animated short there at the end, whether you want to agree with it or you don't, it's happening. These ships, these romances are kind of happening. Some of them taking a little bit more time than usual. Some of them naturally happening. Some of them that have happened have naturally progressed and become something that fans actually support and can get behind. So, again, I understand completely where a lot of folks are coming from. I really do. But, you know, but in the end, you have to realize this is it. We're not going to get another season. So why not just let romance, you know, be part of that natural evolution of a show growing up along with its fans and thus growing its characters up along with it? I'm just saying. Just saying, guys. But anyway, I know this was kind of long, but this, and I know I kind of rambled at times throughout this. I do apologize. But basically, in the end, hopefully, I was able to answer the question as to why there is romance in a show about friendship when it comes to My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. Hopefully, I've been able to answer that, and hopefully now you kind of understand exactly why that show, why all of a sudden the creative staff have decided to bring romance into the forefront as we speak. So, but anyway, that's all I'm going to say, guys. Let me know what you all think down below. Comment if you like. I'd love to hear what each and every one of you have to say about what I discussed here, what I talked about. What are your thoughts on romance being in a show about friendship? I know there's going to be a variety of discussions, a variety of thoughts of no, it shouldn't. Of people saying I don't like it being in there, and some being like, yeah, I kind of agree that it is part of evolution, and this is the last season. So just so let it happen. Stuff. I'm just curious of what you guys have to say, and I ask of you, please be respectful when you comment. But let me know what you all think down below. Comment if you like. I'd love to hear from you guys. And that's all I'm going to say. So till next time, take care. God bless. I am out.